my own kidnapping and discovered exactly what I'm worth. I did it to see if my family would actually care, and what I discovered destroyed us forever. Growing up as the middle child in my family meant being a ghost in a mansion. My older brother James was the heir apparent, groomed for the family business since birth. My younger sister Gemma was the baby princess who could do no wrong. I was just there, existing in the space between their achievements and her potential. When James graduated Harvard Business School, my parents threw a party for 200 people. When Gemma got into her first choice college, they bought her a BMW. When I got my master's degree in social work, my mother said, "That's nice, dear," without looking up from her phone. I realized at 26 that I had become completely invisible to the people who should have loved me most. So I did something unforgivable. I recruited my college roommate Allie, who was struggling with debt, and we planned the most elaborate fake kidnapping in history. We rented a storage unit, bought zip ties and duct tape, and I wrote my own ransom note demanding $3 million. I took photos of myself tied up and looking terrified, and Allie sent them from a burner phone with GPS disabled. The plan was simple: disappear for 72 hours, let them pay the ransom, then escape and return home traumatized but alive. I wanted to see if they would move heaven and earth to get me back, or if they would treat it like another business expense. Allie and I holed up in the storage unit with snacks and Netflix on my laptop, waiting for the frantic calls that never came. Instead, my father's response to the first ransom demand was immediate and clinical. No police involvement, no emotional breakdown, just a wire transfer arranged through his assistant like he was paying a contractor. The second day, I called home from Allie's phone pretending to be the kidnapper, expecting to hear my mother sobbing or my father pleading for my life. Instead, I got my father's business voice asking about insurance documentation and whether this would affect his quarterly taxes. When Fake Me asked if they wanted proof I was still alive, my father actually said, "If she's dead, we need different paperwork, so yes, send confirmation either way." I hung up and cried for 3 hours straight. On the final day, I heard something that shattered whatever was left of my heart. Allie had been monitoring my family's phone calls using software her tech-savvy cousin provided, and we listened to my father talking to his accountant. "The insurance will cover most of the $3 million. Honestly, in the long run, this is probably a good thing because this whole ordeal has taught us exactly what she's worth to us financially. Now we have a number." When the accountant asked if he was worried about my emotional state after the trauma, my father laughed and said, "She's always been dramatic. This will just be more of the same." I returned home that night, bursting through the front door, somehow still hoping for tearful reunions and relief. Instead, I found my parents calmly eating dinner while Gemma showed them paint samples. They looked up with mild surprise, like I had returned from a grocery run rather than 3 days of captivity. My mother said, "Oh good, you're back. Gemma wanted to redecorate your room since you're never here anyway." I stared at the paint samples scattered across the table where my ransom photos should have been, and my sister chirped, "I was thinking sage green for my new art studio." That night, I discovered they had already moved my belongings to the basement and ordered new furniture for Gemma's expansion project. My kidnapping had been nothing more than an inconvenient interruption to their home renovation plans. When I tried to talk about my trauma, my father interrupted to complain about the tax implications of the ransom payment and how my situation had disrupted his golf tournament schedule. The next morning, I packed everything I owned into my car and left a note explaining the entire hoax. I wrote that I had wanted to test their love and discovered they had none to give. I told them the $3 million was sitting untouched in an offshore account they could reclaim, but I would never reclaim my place in their family. My father's only response was a text message 2 days later, asking for the account routing information. It has been 18 months since I disappeared from their lives completely. I moved across the country, changed my last name, and built a chosen family of people who actually notice when I am gone. My blood relatives tell people I had a nervous breakdown and became estranged, never mentioning the kidnapping or the money. They got their $3 million back, and their precious daughter got her art studio. I got something more valuable, the truth about what I actually meant to them, which was absolutely nothing at all.